right, welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I may put a few extra little tidbits and details that I don't cover here on the show tonight. Also, make sure you check out all of the content we do have here on the channel. Make sure you let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see this week's list, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back.
Notable sales.
All right, our first notable sale is this classic Edge of Spider-Verse #2, the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. Goes back a ways. This is the 1 in 25 Greg Land incentive. You remember it. This thing went on quite a ride a few years back. I think even reaching something like over 10, 12, I think maybe even $14,000 in 9/8 at one time. It's not there any longer, but still, after coming down a bit, a Raw this week still sold for a solid $1,300. To put that in context, back in December, a 9/6 sold for about $1,400, while a 9/8 sold for $3,100. So, depending on how well that $1,300 Raw, presented itself, there could still be money on the table, depending on how that thing might get graded out, if someone were to go and grade that. Because again, these books are mostly graded at this time. When what you see sell on the market, they're usually graded copies. Not often do we see a Raw pop up on the open market like that. So they're just few and far between. And with that said, we have another classic variant that also sold Raw this week for an interesting amount of money. And that book is this one. Going back to that ASM run, with the famous Delato book. Now we have the Mike Del Mundo cover with the Face of Tiger. You just lost the jackpot. I mean, this is those Venomized covers that we got, that original run of 1 in 50s. Again, this book has gotten very, very expensive over the years. Has been expensive for a while now. This thing sold this week, Raw, on best offer, asking $2,000. They accepted an offer of $1,900. So it really wasn't that much of a discount as part of that sale. Where the last Raw sold just last month, beginning of last month, it was just under $900. Granted, conditions is going to be different between the two, but it's still, for context purposes, $1,000 difference in almost 2 months, of a different time between the two. Now, those were the notable sales for this week. Again, going back to some classic variants incentives that we all know. But before we get over to the Hot 10, I want to remind all of you out there who may need supplies to use my link below, Renna10, to save yourself 10% off your next BCW order. If you need to get some bags, boards, long boxes, short boxes, top loaders, pages for your cards, whatever you need to keep your comic books and collectibles safe, you can probably find it over at BCW. And if you make an order, use my code Renna10 to save yourself 10% off the entire order, because you got to buy these supplies. You might as well save money while you do it. Now, with that all said, we've just got the Hot 10 to get to, so if you want to see it, let's get it started right now.
Number 10.
Coming in first in our last spot here at number 10, we have this Godzilla holding a string of sausages. No, those are not sausages. That's a train. This is Godzilla. I think it's like Godzilla versus America subset Chicago. Because apparently we're going to get a lot of storylines where Godzilla is going to be in different American cities wreaking havoc, and you get an anthology book related to it. This is Chicago. This is the 1 in 50 by Chris Burnham. And again, it's a fun book. You see the kids outside playing ball in the street, and you got Godzilla in the background again, not with a string of sausages, but with an L train. Cool. Now, me putting this on the list, I usually do not put books that have this low a volume on the list, but here at number 10, with only 3 sales, I thought this one warranted some attention because of the amounts that this book sold for. It is a 1 in 50, and now sold with 3 copies for an average of $133, with a high of $160. This book's only been out a couple of days, and yes, only a few sales. Only a few copies available as well, and they all want a similar value, a similar price point, which is well above ratio. So I thought it was notable and worth the mention here at the bottom of the list. Now, with that all said, we're going to keep it rolling and get on to our number 9 book.
Number 9.
Now, here at number 9, we do have another Mark Spears book. I know what you're thinking. Another Mark Spears book. Yes, because this is technically free. This would have been at shops, I believe, last week. This is the Ash Can edition that's promoting the upcoming, event or upcoming crossover series between Space Ghost and Johnny Quest, Space Quest. And yes, it does have a Mark Spears cover. But this, again, Ash Can edition has no cover price. While some sites online I saw at one time were asking like $10, like Midtown. Bottom line is, it was given to shops to give it out to promote this upcoming event. So what your shop decided to do with it, I can't say. If you got a good enough relationship with your LCS, maybe we're able to get this book for free. But this past week, there were a couple dozen sales of this book, averaging about $10, with a high reaching $30 for this Ash Can edition. So definitely something to keep an eye out. Again, maybe you can grab this thing for free. I don't know. Maybe your shop still has it just in a box in the back there somewhere, along with their other promotional materials. Go make a friend and ask. Who knows? But with that said, that is our number 9 book, which will take us to our next spot.
Number 8.
Here we have a book coming off Kickstarter to be released by Mad Cave to the general public through your LCS, and that is Pop Kill. I did take part in the Kickstarter because we had an Adam Hughes cover. There was a Brian Sinkovich. There was a Bill Sinkovich cover that I also liked. So I did take part in that Kickstarter back in the day. But here we're getting this Pop Kill series, redone for, generally all audiences here. I guess for those who didn't get in on that Kickstarter. And with that, we have a couple of covers, including this 1 in 10 incentive by Amanda Connor. Yes, this is only a 1 in 10. But considering this is not going to be a popular book, there may not be a huge number of these out there at most shops, because I don't know how many shops are even going to order 10 copies of Pop Kill. But if yours did and you were able to get one, this 1 in 10 had a couple dozen sales, or almost a couple dozen sales, averaging about $20, also hitting highs of $30, which is a pretty good premium for a 1 in 10 incentive, which, again, I know we all go off of that ratio price, which is not a rule. It's just a general rule of thumb that a lot of places follow. So 1 in 10, this price starts at about $10, usually. That's not, again, a law. It's not an MSRP. It's just general practice. But considering this thing has been selling for $20 and $30 this week, it's only been out a couple of days. This is something to keep an eye on to see if this price is going to continue to go up or come down or level out as we roll through this weekend. But notable enough here with nearly 20 sales to make a spot here at number 8. So with that said, let's keep it rolling and get on to our next book.
Number 7.
Holding here at the same spot as last week, we still have the Geiger number 10 second print, first cover appearance of that glowing woman. The regular is selling a little bit, but still mostly around cover and not a ton of volume. Most people seem to be gravitating towards her appearance here on this second print cover for one reason or another. Why is this in the same spot as last week? Mostly because even though it's selling for about the same rate, averaging about $15, higher ones going for about 20, it's the volume. The volume is up 85% with over 50 sales this week, where last week it was around 30 something. So it's that volume alone that helped it keep a spot on the list. But without a price increase, that limited how high I wanted to put this on the list. So I kept it at that same spot at number 7, given that rush in volume at those average prices from last week. But that's our number 7 book. We've already covered it, so we can get on to something new and check out what we have next at number 6.
Number 6.
And at number 6, we have an old book. Not really a new book. We have an old book. This is Spawn number 5. Yes, all the way back to number 5. I mean, we're in the plus 300s. Where we passed 350, I think, at this point with the regular Spawn title. But go all the way back to Spawn number 5. Todd McFarlane writing, mostly doing the whole show at the time. I mean, he had some help, but he was mostly steering the ship as far as the storyline and art goes. This book was the first appearance of Billy Kincaid and little Sherry Johnson, who was his victim. Apparently, announcement. Well, also, we know solicitations are going out. We knew the storyline was coming, but solicitations went out for May that there will be a series in that Spawn universe following up on that storyline with little Sherry Johnson. So with that, folks are going back and picking up her first appearance and Billy Kincaid's first appearance as well in this issue with over 40 sales averaging about $10. And that average is helped out a lot by the fact that newsstand editions, and that's the picture I gave you with the barcode, newsstand editions do sell for a premium. So while plenty of the directs can be had for like $5 here and there, maybe even cheaper, maybe a couple bucks more, those newsstands are generally like $20, like kind of on average. It's right around that $22 mark is the high, but around $20 is what a newsstand of this same issue would get you, which raises the overall average. So didn't want to, bifurcate it too much and give you a direct and a newsstand average, just an overall average about $10, depending on what you find. CGC 98, only about $74. Point being, up 450% with those 40 plus sales this week as far as volume goes. So a lot more volume this week, even though, like I said, we knew this story was coming. It's just solicitations finally went out to a lot of places. So interest got spiked this past week for this book. Now, with that said, we still have the top half of the list to get to. So let's just get right into it.
Number 5.
Yes, if we learned anything last week, it's that animated series can push books. Yes, the announcement of that Knights book pushed a lot of books in volume. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has done all right in moving some comics. X-Men 97 is probably our biggest recent example of how an animated series can move comic books. But here we have the 3rd season of Invincible, which in and of itself has also been moving some books. It's just been hard because a lot of Invincible titles are already pretty expensive. Like we go to Invincible 1, a lot of first appearances, already pretty pricey given the nature of how lower print they were and how old they are at this point. But this past week, we got Aaron Paul, Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, I believe, voiced the character of Powerplex, who showed up here on the 3rd season of the show. So Invincible 59, Powerplex's first appearance, started to move on the market thanks to that appearance there. So again, animated shows and appearances pushing books, as this book, Invincible 59, which has been about a $10 to $15 book for a while now, because again, it's an Invincible book. Back issues have been around that range, but the volume alone, about 20 sales, up 750% from last week at those prices of averaging $15, hitting highs of 20. A CGC 98 of $125 is why it's on the list this week, given that huge rush in volume. So more books moving on the market thanks to animated television show appearances. Just thought that was kind of interesting and has that spot at number 5. And with that, we got our next book coming in right now.
Number 4.
Next week, we will be getting the premiere of Daredevil Born Again on Disney+. I believe it's on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time for most of us. And with that, Daredevil 1, the OG original, moved this week. Is it because of the show coming? Probably in part. Did we also get a facsimile reprint this week that had a foil edition and a 1 in 25 incentive? Yes, we had those as well. But the OG original Daredevil 1 with this, classic Jack Kirby cover. We all know, we all remember the yellow Daredevil outfit that ran on those first few issues. This book, granted, not a ton of volume as a total, like as a whole, but for a book of this nature and this price, because this isn't a cheap book. This isn't like $100 number 1. Like this book moves in the thousands a lot of times. So with that, having almost 10 copies sell this week, which is up 800% from last week, where I think there was a single sale, that's why this one has found its spot at the number 4 position. Averaging about $3,000 in total. That's for graded raw copies. I mean, a coverless copy of this sold for just a couple $100. That dragged some of that average down. Meanwhile, there were some sales like the CGC 70 that sold for over $6,500. There was also a 6.5 that was about $5,500 and a 6.0 that was about $4,500. So you can see how we're right in there at that price point. Like at every half point, it was like another $1,000 for this book. And those big numbers is what has our average up where it is, over $3,000. And again, the 800% increase in copies sold as we are getting ready for Daredevil to drop on streaming next Tuesday. So with that said, I thought this was fun. I thought this was interesting. And I think it earned its spot here at number 4. And with that, we still have our top 3. So let's just get right to it.
Number 3.
Piggybacking on the upcoming appearance in Daredevil, we do have the Punisher. The Punisher number 1 this week. We know he's going to be guest appearing at some point during this season on Daredevil Born Again. And last week we had his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 129, which is still moving, but not at the volumes they were last week. But the additional reason Punisher is on people's minds is because we got more news that Marvel is also going to be doing a special one-shot edition, kind of like that black and white Werewolf by Night, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. It's going to be a special presentation Punisher, show, I guess, whatever we want to call it, a Punisher special presentation will be coming, I believe, next year, starring John Bernthal. And with that, many people might be priced out of that ASM 129. Even the Punisher miniseries #1 is moving, but not in the volumes that the original ongoing series here from 1987, Punisher 1, Klaus Janson cover. I'm sure you guys remember this classic cover. It's been homaged a number of times as well, with the Punisher on that, fire escape. This book up a ton in volume this past week, thanks to that news. Up over 31% with over 30 sales, averaging about $25. Hitting highs over 50 for those really nice, raw copies, those near mints, etc. Again, this is a book that's affordable, which is why I think a lot of people are buying more into it, given that even with some graded copies, we have a Signature Series 9/8 signed by the cover artist, Klaus Janson, that did sell for $425. So that's a big number. It is Signature Series, so we can't really do an apples-to-apples comparison to the Raws, but just saying the difference between a $25 average and a $425 Signature Series 9/8 is a lot of room for a premium to be added, depending on what you have available to you. You want to do conventions, you want to get signatures, etc. Point being, Punisher is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds thanks to these announcements, and we know he's coming. Excitement is building as it seems that Marvel is starting to get back on track. I know a lot of people still, complain and say they're done, they're overexposure, etc. But really, we haven't had a lot of Marvel television or movies in a while. We just had Cap 4, better than I think a lot of people give it credit for, and now we've got Daredevil coming just in a few days. So I'm personally excited for this stuff. I don't know about you. You let me know what you think in the comments down below about this stuff. But Punisher is definitely, at the forefront of this rush of books lately. So with that, let's get to number 2 and see what we got next.
Number 2.
So here at number 2, we have DC versus Marvel Comics, the original crossover event for both companies smashing together, leading to the amalgam books that we got after that. Why is this here? It's because in the news, we are going to be getting another huge crossover event between the big two sometime soon. That's the rumor that's out there. I guess it's been a number of years. They decided, hey, boys, let's get this thing together and do another crossover event. I don't know. But the last time out, this was the first time out. Then we had JLA Avengers following it. And yes, there were crossovers before this. You had Spider-Man and Superman, etc. But those one-off character, crossovers, this is line-wide. So this was a much different animal and more akin to what we will be getting soon, which is why a lot of people are gravitating back towards this original miniseries. Heavily printed. A lot of copies out there. I'm sure you found copies in those dollar bins. But with those cheap copies selling, there have also been other copies available and selling for even better. This past week, with an increase of 700% on those over 40 sales the past 7 days, we're seeing copies move for $25 for those DC Universe variants. You know the ones with the barcode, DC Universe, right down there. Those are about $25. You get a newsstand barcode in that same spot. Those are moving for about $12. They're about 10 to $12 on average. While your regular direct editions, yes, those can be very cheap. We're talking more closer to $5, maybe even less, depending if you get lucky. Online auctions, and you could probably dig them out of boxes. A 9/8 newsstand did sell for $100 this week, but that's what I'm saying. Depending on what version of this book you have, there is some potential to make a little bit of extra premium, despite the fact that volumes are way up, given that news dropping this week of another line-wide crossover event on our way. So, with that, take a look down at the bottom of your book, see what kind of copy you got, because if you got a newsstand, good job. You got a DC Universe, even better. Now, with that said, we got one book left, so let's see what's earned the top spot this week.
And our number 1.
All right, so for number 1, I have a special circumstance, special case here slotting in this top spot. And this is the Red Hulk number 1 previews edition. Now, Personally, I asked for one of these from my LCS because I thought this was one of those spoiler variants, one of those reveal cover variants. I did not know this was a previews exclusive edition cover that's limited to 3,000 copies. Now, you know my general policy is not to include exclusives on the main list because I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to do San Diego exclusives on a list because I, and like many, don't live near San Diego. So going to San Diego Comic-Con isn't something that I can do. So it's not an apples to apples kind of list. Store exclusives, I don't like that sort of bifurcation either. Like, it's a special case. If you like those covers, go ahead and pick them up, but I don't like including them here on the main list. But previews, being a distributor, and these books being available to basically all LCSs and made available through your LCS, this made this seem like something reasonable that I could include on the list, which is why it is here. Apart from the fact that this thing is currently averaging $75 on over 30 sales already. It's only been out a couple of days. $75 with a high of over $125 already for this previews exclusive. Yes, it was limited to 3,000. There might be some some holdbacks. Shops may not get all the copies that they ordered if they ordered any. Just to give a sense, I don't think there was an actual cover price on this, so what your shop might have charged you may be different. I believe my shop charged us like $20 or thereabouts, and I think that's the same price that Midtown had this available on their site. So it was just one of those limited nature books. I don't know what it cost, the direct edition. I don't know what it cost the shop, but that's generally what they started at, about $20. So for them selling at 75 already, that's a huge premium in a short amount of time and a decent amount of volume with over 30 sales already. So we'll see how this book continues to roll. Again, it's a pretty interesting cover. I liked it, which is why I picked it, because you get that Red Hulk reflection in Doom's mask. But I think this has caught a lot of people by surprise this week because, again, I didn't even know it was a previous exclusive. I mean, that's how it was labeled, but I didn't think of it in that way. I thought it was like a spoiler cover. But, hey, we all learned something, hopefully. Now, with that said, that was our top book of the week. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, but don't go anywhere because starting up right now, after I'm done, hang out with the boys on The Qualified. They're going to be going through a number of different segments, including the Women of Tomorrow, which are some female artists that you may or may not know that you should keep your eye on in the year ahead. So the boys got a selection of female artists for you to watch. Check it out, plus all the other fun segments that they do. Make sure you come back tomorrow for Saturday Night Special. The SNS boys will have another show. Sunday will be the Star Wars show, Dark Side. So come back for that live show as well. And then come Monday, I'll start it up with the new Wednesday watch list, and the schedule will roll on from there. So with that all said, thank you for all the support, and I'll see you all later with some more content. All right?